Hello and welcome to The Way Talk. I'm Roland, and this is a show about the early church, sometimes referred to as the primitive church, or first century church, or New Testament church. Whatever it's referred to, our goal here at The Way Talk is to rediscover that early Jesus movement and then live out its life and practices in our time and culture. In other words, our goal here is to become total radicals. Why radicals? Well, you might know that the word radical comes from the Latin word radix, which means root. A radical, then, is one who goes to the root of a thing, and that's precisely what we'll be doing in the following talks. In fact, that's the reason why the show is called The Way Talk. The Way was one of the earliest designations for Jesus' followers. It even predates the term Christians found in Acts 11. The Way is actually first found at the beginning of Acts 9 when Saul is looking to arrest any belonging to the Way in Damascus. Remember that? Who can't, right? Saul, or Paul as you better know him, will never be the same again. By the way, contrary to popular opinion, his name was never changed from Saul to Paul. One is simply the Hebrew form of his name, and the other is a Greek form. You can see that by reading Acts 13:9. Anyway, Saul went to persecute early believers who were identified as belonging to the Way. That term surely was connected to Jesus, who famously proclaimed himself to be the Way in John 14. So the early disciples who walked as Jesus taught apparently earned the Way name badge for themselves. That's at least my take on it. All right, let me now address an honest question that you might have. Why another Bible podcast? Let me answer by sharing a little of the lead up to the show. I served as a pastor for 7 years in Northern California. The people were wonderful. I was blessed to have them for my church family. They were a loving body, and they still are, so I have absolutely no complaints, gripes, or anything of the like. What happened, though, was I gradually began noticing differences in the early church life, like that found in Acts and in Paul's letters and such, and in the church life around me, and in the church at large. And so I began probing more and more into the early church. Well, fast forward. The last set of messages I gave to that church was a theme look at the book of Acts, or as it's officially called, the Acts of the Apostles. My hope was to point the church in the best biblical direction that I could see. It was my farewell address, you could say, somewhat similar to Paul's to the Ephesian elders in Acts 20. Anyhow, that theme look in Acts, along with a look at some other New Testament writings, will serve as a kind of springboard for the show. We'll also take some theological detours or follow-up talks here and there, which will add to the fun. So I hope that you are braced and ready for what lies ahead, because I do think what follows will challenge your thinking and maybe even reshape your living. So why another Bible podcast? Well, I don't think this will be just another one. All right, just 3 final remarks before I bring the show intro to a close. First, while I appreciate original language pronunciations, such as the Hebrew Yeshua or the Greek koinonia, I'll usually just use the English pronunciations. Why? Well, simply because they're more familiar. Surely Jesus and fellowship are more recognizable. Second, I'm under no illusion that you'll agree with me on every point. I fully understand that you're going to find some, maybe much, disagreement with what is said here. And you know what? That's entirely fine, really. I welcome your pushback, I welcome your scrutiny, and I certainly welcome your scripture checking. So, by all means, please do this. After all, if the Bereans thought it needful to search the scriptures to find out if what Paul said was true, how much more for me? So, by all means, test everything that is said here against the scriptures. I fully welcome that. Third, the following talks are not meant to be exhaustive theological treatments. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't have any theological depth to them. They will have theological depth, but my goal isn't simply to information dump on you. Information of the biblical kind is certainly good, but I think the talks will be much more beneficial if they cause you to further study and search and seek out the truth in the scriptures for yourselves. That would be my strong encouragement. With this said, I hope that you listen in to the following talks. Grace and peace to you.